happy Tuesday, or whatever day it is you're watching this. For me, it is a gorgeous Tuesday, feeling colorful, feeling happy, feeling excited to teach you about order of operations today. So welcome to my channel if you're new, welcome back if you're not. I appreciate you coming back. So my name's Jody, and if you are wanting to learn about all things math, all different levels, whatever it is you want to go over, please subscribe. I would love to have you here. So without further ado, let's get into the topic of today, which is order of operations, and it's a biggie. So let's have some fun. Before we get really into it, I am sure you guys have seen going around Facebook or whatever application you're on, problems such as these. And if you get in the comments, they are heated. People will fight you and try to tell you why you are wrong or why someone else is wrong. It's super important to understand the order in which you're supposed to do things in order to get the correct answers. There's nothing worse than setting up maybe a crazy story problem and you did it correctly, but then when you go to solve it, you do it in the wrong order and you get the wrong answer. And that is just maddening. So we want to try to clear that up. Now, I'm sure that in the States, you've heard the acronym PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I'm going to show you a version of that because that's generally what we use. But in other countries, there are different acronyms, but they fundamentally are saying the same thing. So for example, in Canada and New Zealand, and correct me if I'm wrong, any of my subscribers who will know better than me, but I believe in Canada and New Zealand, they use BIDMAS instead of PEMDAS, but all the order is still the same. And then in UK, Australia, etc., they're going to use BODMAS, which again, similar letters, and same order, but maybe just different words. There is also BIDMAS that is also used, and I've heard places use GEMS or GEMDAS. The overlying principle is that you need to do certain things in a certain order, and your calculator should do it in that correct order if you're making proper use of parentheses and things like that, or simply you're just going to get the wrong solutions. So let me show you the way that we generally do it here in the States and the way that I like to teach my students, and let's see if we can clear up some questions for you. I present to you PERMDAS. Now, generally known in the States, it is known as PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I found that students weren't sure where to put the roots if it just said PEMDAS. So let me go through each of these in detail, and then I'll give you some important notes to know about each one. So P stands for parentheses. Now, as I mentioned, in other parts of the world, they might use a B to start off. B stands for brackets. Parentheses and brackets serve the same function. They just basically contain a group of numbers or contain some sort of operation. I put these symbols in here as well because they also serve as parentheses in a sense. These are absolute values. Now, notice I've put stars inside. One of the most misunderstood in this whole task is parentheses. Most people think that if there are parentheses, just simply the presence of them, that you do anything around those first, and that is not the case. In fact, what you want to do is solve what's inside any set of parentheses, brackets, absolute values, any sort of grouping symbol first. Exponents stands for, well, any exponent, so a cubed, a negative power, fraction power, it doesn't really matter. R is going to stand for roots. Now, it doesn't matter which one of these you do first. Here's the thing, roots are exponents. It's just that generally you kind of learn how to do roots before you actually realize that you can rewrite a root. That's a lot of R's as I'm saying that. You can rewrite a square root using an exponent. So that's why a lot of places don't put the R in there, but I like to include it because then it's very clear where your roots go. Now, multiply and divide would come next, and then addition and subtraction like this. I find that if I put it in a tier system like this, you kind of focus on all of the parenthesis operations first, then move to exponents and roots, and it doesn't really matter which one you do first. Then you move to multiply, divide. Now you do have to go left to right within this. That is one of the most missed operations or one of the most missed rules when it comes to order of operations. And then last is addition and subtraction. So let me write up a few things for you and I'll be right back, and then we'll go over some really important details about each of the tiers. All right, if you're going to get those problems right that people put on Facebook and dare you to get right, that 90% of people get wrong, these are the things that you really need to make sure that you know. So with any sort of parentheses or any sort of grouping symbols, which would be parentheses, brackets, absolute values, etc., you need to solve what's inside those first. Again, it's not just the presence of them, it's that you're going to solve what's within them first. Next, exponents and roots can generally be done in either order. That can be addressed in a separate video, separate topic, but generally either order. But this one is one of the biggest ones that will have people getting problems wrong. You need to do this left to right. It doesn't matter that in order of operations, the M is visually listed before the D. That doesn't mean that multiplication always comes first. It depends which operation is leftmost in the problem, and then you work your way to the right. So you must always do this left to right. So if you can take one really important thing from this important notes column, it's this one, left to right, multiply and divide. Now, addition and subtraction is generally done left to right as well, and you'll be more accurate that way because if you break that order, it's not wrong. You can get the correct answer, but it is easier to make sign mistakes. So if you want to see my sign video, I'll link it in the eye up here, but it goes over adding and subtracting more in depth. But as long as you are careful, so with care, it's supposed to be underlined in red, but doesn't really look red. You can go in any order, but when in doubt, go left to right, and that is going to be a lot safer. So let me show you some examples of why each of these notes is important. Here are some examples of how you will be more educated than many people and you will know the correct order of doing these problems. So as I was saying on this step right here, you solve what's inside the parentheses first. So inside these parentheses is a 3. There's nothing to solve. It's just a single number. Same here. There's nothing to solve. It's just a 7. But a lot of people will mistakenly say, well, there are parentheses around those numbers, so I need to do 3 plus 7 first. That is not true. 3 plus 7 is addition. That's the last thing that we should do. So again, it's not the presence of parentheses. You would have to solve what's within them. Now, since there's nothing inside to solve, we actually are going to say, okay, parentheses is done. There's no exponents or roots in that example, so next we're going to do the multiplication. So to solve this problem, you need to do the multiplication part first. So you would do 7 times 3, which is 21, plus 7. Now, since the number 7 was just by itself and there was nothing else outside the parentheses, you can just write it as a 7 without those parentheses. And so this answer is actually 28. But if you went in the wrong order and you accidentally did the 3 plus 7 first, you would not come up with 28, so there would be the mistake there. Now on this one, root 4, so square root of 4 cubed. It doesn't matter if you're going to do the square root first or the cube first, you'll get the same answer. So just to show you really quick, if I do the root first, it's going to look like this. So the square root of 4 is 2, and then to cube that would be the answer of 8. But if I were to actually cube the 4 first, so I would do square root of 4 cubed is 64, square root of 64 is still 8. So really, it doesn't matter as long as the root and the exponent are over the same number or numbers, then it doesn't matter which one you do first. Now this one, hotly debated among those people, and what I find is it's the people who are wrong who fight you the hardest. That's just my experience. But let's look at this one. So if you went in the traditional order, a lot of people will think multiplication comes first, but as I said, it needs to be completed left to right. So since it needs to be completed left to right, division is the leftmost operation in this problem. So we need to compute this division first and then the multiplication. So 12 divided by 3, we would do that part first and get 4. 4 times 2 equals 8. So that's our final solution. But note, if you were to do the 3 times 2 first, that would be 6. 12 divided by 6 is definitely not 8. So that alone shows that you do have to go in a very specific order. You can't just wing it and always go with multiplication first. They're on the same level of importance, so do them left to right within whatever problem you're doing. Now on this one, as I said, you technically can break the left to right rule, but you have to be very careful. So here's the mistake and here's the issue if people try to not go left to right, is they might think that this is 10 plus 2. So again, this is going to be the wrong answer, but let me show you a very common mistake that I see. So people will say, oh, well, 10 plus 2 is 12, so 5 minus 12 equals negative 7, right? Wrong, that wasn't just a 10. Technically, that's a negative 10, and you might say, but wait, that says subtract 10. Well, if you check out my, not exponents, my negatives video, I explain more in depth that subtract is really just adding a negative. So technically, this could be written as 5 plus negative 10 plus 2. So if you wanted to do the 10 and the 2 first, you would have to make sure to do negative 10 plus 2 first. Or to be safer, go left to right. So this is going to be the correct answer, is if we go left to right. So let me write it again. We're going to go 5 minus 10 first. So that is going to be negative 5 plus 2. So the final answer actually should be negative 3 when you go in the proper order. Or if you were to write it like this, you would still get negative 3. So don't do this. Do this or this. So I hope that clears that up a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is just write up a bunch of examples that combine a bunch of order of operations into each problem, and we'll walk through a few of them. Then I'll give you a few to do on your own. So let's do it. Are you guys ready? Okay. On this number 1, so we always want to start by saying, is there anything within parentheses that we can start with? And the answer is yes. So we're going to start with our 9 times 3. Now, what I recommend is when you're doing one level of our tier system, don't do any of the ones below. Just rewrite all of it. Don't combine levels. That's when you are at risk of getting incorrect answers, and nobody wants that. So we're just going to do this part first. I'm not going to do either of these. We're just going to copy. 6 squared minus 23 plus 9 times 3 is 27. Now, once you've solved what's within those parentheses and there's no exponents or anything like that outside, you can drop the parentheses off and just write 27. So next in our order of operations would be our exponent right here. So 6 squared means 6 times 6. So that's next. We're going to go 36, and again, just copy everything else. Now, let's go left to right within that addition and subtraction level, and then we'll have our final solution. So next would be our 36 minus 23, so that's going to be 13. Copy that plus 27, and then 13 plus 27 gives us our final solution of 40. So the best way to do these is to do each of the levels as you go down, but don't combine or mix levels. So if you're just in parenthesis level, copy everything else down, and so on as you go through. The more steps you try to skip, the more mistakes that you can make until you get better at these. But when you're first learning, do every step individually, and I think you get my point. So let's look at this one. Now, see how there are 2 sets of parentheses? That means we can do both of those first because those are both the first level of order of operations. So again, we're going to solve what's within those parentheses. So even though that's addition, this is actually counted in the parenthesis level. So we're going to start with this, and we're going to copy all of this. So 4 plus 3 is just 7, and then we'll just copy the rest here. Plus 5 times 6 is 30. Again, you can drop off the parentheses as long as there's not an exponent or a root outside them. So we have no exponents, we have no roots. So next, remember, you want to go left to right within our problem, considering we have both a multiplication and a division symbol. So we want to go left to right, meaning we want to do our 7 times 10 first, which is going to be 70 divided by 2 plus 30. Now we can do our 70 divided by 2, so that's 35. Copy our plus 30, 35 and 30 is going to give us 65. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know on all of these if you need any clarification down below, and I'd be happy to address it. Now on this one, we have a lot going on. We have parentheses and brackets. Now, especially right here where we have brackets and then parentheses within there, it's sort of like you're in like an escape room and you're clear inside the escape room. You haven't done anything yet. So you need to do the first clues first, the ones that are closest to you first. So you have to work from the inside out of that. So within here, we're going to do our own little mini order of operations. So we need to solve inside here, but within here, parentheses would come first. Now another note, these are also parentheses. So you can do the 14 divided by 7 now because it's a parentheses step. So I'm going to start with 14 divided by 7, so that's 2, and then we'll just copy our squared. Now again, within here, you're in your escape room, so you need to do the most important clue first, which is going to be our 13 plus 3 because it's within parentheses. So we're going to keep the brackets on because we're not done solving what's within the brackets yet. Once we're done solving all of that, they can drop off. So 13 plus 3 is going to be 16, and then I'm going to copy the plus 4 squared. So if you think about it, we're actually still in the parentheses step. We did these parentheses, but we're not done with these ones yet. So next is order of operations within here says we do the exponent first. So don't do the 16 plus 4. First, you're going to do the 4 squared, which means 4 times 4. So copy everything else. Notice I'm not doing this one yet because technically we're still in parentheses step here. So 2 squared plus, keep the brackets, 16 plus 4 squared makes 16. So now we can finally finish what's inside those brackets and then drop the brackets off. So we still have 2 squared plus, that's going to make 32. So 2 squared plus 32, the next thing with order of operations, now that we've finally done our parentheses, is to do the 2 squared because that's our exponent. So that would be 4 plus 32. So our final solution is going to be 36 on that one. Hopefully that makes sense. So when you have more than one set of parentheses and more than one type of operation within them, it's like you have a mini order of operations within the big scheme of order of operations. So work from the inside out of your escape room of your parentheses, and you'll finally be able to drop them off once that is completely solved. So on this one, we have 2 sets of parentheses. So we're going to do this and this. We're going to do what's within them first. So we have 4 times, it doesn't say, but when it's right next to it, it means times. That's going to be 5 plus 6 times 3 is 18 minus 2 squared. Again, just copy everything else. So now that we've solved what's within those parentheses, that's just a 5 now, and that's just an 18. Now we can stick to what's next in order of operations, which would be our exponent. So let's do that one next. So I'm going to leave the 4 times 5 because again, this is multiplication when they're right next to each other. So we actually need to do that exponent before we multiply and before we add. So I'm just going to write this as just 18 because there's nothing else outside the 18. You can drop that off. Minus 2 squared is 4. So now we've done parentheses. We've done what's within them. We've done the exponent. Now we're at the multiply divide phase, so we only have a multiplication here, so start with that. And we're going to go 20 plus 18 minus 4. And now just work your way left to right to make sure your signs are all okay, and we'll be done. So 20 plus 18 is 38 minus 4 for a final solution of 34. So hopefully that makes sense when you have 2 separate sets of parentheses. We have the same thing here and here. So solve what's within them first. I can't say that enough, and you're probably like, stop already. I'm telling you, it's a very common mistake, so the more I say it, hopefully the more it will stick in that brain. All right, now this one doesn't have any parentheses or exponents or roots. So what we start with is multiply divide. Now we only have this multiplication right here. The rest of it's addition and subtraction. So let's do our multiplication and then just copy everything else. So we're going to have 1 minus 26 plus 25 minus 5 plus 7. Now, as you can see, we're all just addition and subtraction. So let's go left to right, make sure our signs are accurate, and we'll solve it out from there. So 1 minus 26 is negative 25. Copy everything else. This part seems a bit tedious to recopy everything, but you will be much more accurate that way until you've had a lot more practice. So now negative 25 plus 25 is 0. Minus 5 plus 7. 0 minus 5 is negative 5 plus 7. So your final solution I'm squishing in there is 2. So last one here, and then I'll give you some to practice, and I'll also give you the answers, and then we'll be done. So on this one, it's very similar to this one, where we want to do what's inside the parentheses first, and inside the brackets, which would be the parentheses in there first. So we're going to have 7 squared plus, keep our bracket there. So 1 plus 3 would be 4 squared minus root 25. Like that. Now see how I wrote that 7 with parentheses? You can drop it off if you want, but when in doubt, it's better to leave too many than not enough, just as a general rule. All right, so we're still working on this set of parentheses here. Now, we've got the squared and we have a root. Technically, those are both on the same level, so we can do both of them right now, or you can go one at a time. So I'm just going to copy our 7 squared plus, that would be 4 squared is 16, minus the square root of 25 is 5. Notice I still have the brackets because I'm not actually done solving in there yet. On the next step I will be. So we're going to have 7 squared plus, that's just 11. So now we have 49 plus 11 for a final answer of 60. Oh, perfect. You can still see that. Beautiful. So those are some rather lengthy examples. If you want some more simple examples, I can give you those as well, but I wanted to include as much as I can in there. So to finish this off, let me write up a few questions for you, have you try them on your own, and then when I come back, you'll have all the answers as well so that we can make sure everything is good to go. All right, who's ready to try some on their own? I've written up 6 different ones than before, so what I want you to do is to pause this video, work them out, let me know what questions you wind up with as you go through them, and when I come back, I will have all the solutions worked out for you so you'll know you did them right. So, 3, 2, 1. How did you guys do? I hope that you tried them on your own. If you did, and if you got all or some of them right, let me know down in the comments. I'm so excited to hear. Let me know also what snags you might have run into if you had any questions or concerns about any of these. But the first one's answer is 125, then 39, 1, 9, 223, and 33. If you have questions, let me know, and I hope that it went well. I hope you felt good about them. I hope that the lesson helped with them, so fingers crossed. As a final wrap up here, it doesn't really matter what acronym you use. PEMDAS, PERMDAS, GEMDAS, GEMS, BIDMAS, BODMAS, whatever it may be, you'll see it all in the comments of those posts that I mentioned. It doesn't matter as long as you get the general idea. Now, let me know whatever questions you have down in the comments below. I just really appreciate you guys all being here. It really means a lot that you would support me and my channel, and I can't wait to just build up a huge log of videos to help whoever needs anything, really. So if you want to watch any of my previous videos, I've done a couple on fractions and one on sines already. I will get up into trigonometry, calculus, all of those things. I'm just kind of jumping around from topic to topic, doing whatever is suggested by you or just whatever my mind feels like. So I can't wait to see you in my next video. Please, please, please subscribe and like the video. It helps me out more than you know, and I appreciate it so, so much. Have a beautiful, beautiful day wherever you are.